Hey everybody, it's Neil Thompson here from Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Michael Neece. He's a professional speaker and author of the book In Kind, Consciously Craft a Meaningful Life and Career. On behalf of those who are interested in becoming speakers, I'm really interested to learn more on his thoughts on picking a speaking topic, marketing yourself as a speaker, and pricing services. So let's get to those thoughts. Welcome to the Teach the Geek interviews, Michael.
Thanks for having me, Neil.
So, based on the work that you previously did, how did you come to your speaking topic?
I've been in 5 different industries, and over time, I found out that what I really love about almost every job is the people. I really, enjoy connecting with others and finding out how to support them and make them really successful. And so that became my topic: is how do you lead yourself through a working world and through a career and try to grow and develop through that by being kind.
Okay, and also, I guess maybe I should have even asked you the type of work that you did before becoming a speaker. What did it entail?
So immediately before this, I was in pharma. I was working on clinical trials as a SAS programmer and as an instructor, a teacher of SAS programmers. Did that for a very long time. But I've also been in the planetarium industry as the guy who, in the dark room, you point out there's Orion's belt, and the phase of the moon tonight is a crescent and that sort of thing. And I've also been a teacher in martial arts. So yeah, I've done a lot of different odd things.
Oh wow, yeah, that's definitely a career, that's for sure. And then, okay, so when it comes to, I mean, I think a lot of times when I speak to people about speaking and what they did beforehand, even, or at least when it comes to speaking, they talk about keynote speaking. I think for a lot of people who are aspiring speakers, that's what they think about when they think of professional speakers. Is that what you are? And if not, what other services do you provide?
I am primarily a keynote speaker. I do also a little bit of coaching at the executive level for C-suite and other leaders at different corporations. Also, different administrators and officials at universities, colleges, and even some high schools and middle schools. So yeah, those are the folks that I mostly interact with, and it really is a lot of keynote speaking. I also do a ton of writing. I've written a book, as you mentioned earlier, and I'm writing my next. So.
Oh, nice. Okay. When it comes also, like, so for the people who are listening and they aspire to be speakers, I suspect there are certain things that they need to have in place for them to put themselves out there as speakers. What are those things that you think they should have in place?
Absolutely, taking up opportunities to get in front of people. So even if you're the guy at the wedding that people come to and they say, "Hey, can you make this announcement? I know you have a good voice and I know you like to talk to people. Can you, tell everybody we're moving to the other room now?" Or I would just say you've got to be getting in front of lots of groups of people. And if you find that you really love it, that you are in service of whatever audience you've got in front of you, and you're thinking about them and how you're helping them and how you're teaching them, or you're having them know something that they really need to know. That's I think the biggest requirement. I mean, beyond that, it's a matter of watch yourself on tape so you can find out what are your areas that you can improve on, and so forth. But yeah, have excitement when it comes to getting in front of people and helping them, and then have that spirit of being studious and figuring out how to do it better.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. When you were speaking, Michael, it made me think of you mentioned, well, actually, I mentioned that you wrote a book, and you also mentioned that you wrote a book. You writing this book, was that something that you thought you needed to do in order to put yourself out as a speaker, or is that something you would have done anyway?
Probably would have done it anyway, but man, I just went to the National Speakers Association big conference in Denver. And it's so funny. Almost every group that I was among, they'd say, "How many of you have written a book?" And about half the hands would go up. So I think an awful lot of the spirit of wanting to help other people and put information out into the world where you're helping others. I think these two things just go hand in hand really nicely, where, you write it down and people can read it and access it at their leisure, but also you can get in front of people and really inspire them and answer their questions as well. So I didn't feel it was necessary to be a speaker, but it was something I really was desperate to get down on paper because I just feel like these ideas can be of service to people.
Do you position your book in any way to help you get speaking engagements? And if so, how do you do that?
I absolutely make sure people know about the book. I have it on my LinkedIn, and I have it very high up in the list of things that I've accomplished. I also have it on a web page so that people can find out more about the book and the different topics that I am attracted to and that I love to speak about. So those are the two biggest places. The other thing is that I am starting up my own podcast in the next few weeks, and so that's going to be something that I do mention. That Michael Neece, the author of, and that sort of thing, because I think when people know that you have really crystallized your thoughts into a written work or into multiple written works, I think that gives people a little bit of confidence that you've really thought about it hard.
Yeah, you would hope so. Especially you see all these pages, it's like this had to come from somewhere. Oh,
Right.
hopefully not from ChatGPT.
Right. Right. Yeah. I guess these days you never know, but
Yeah, indeed. How do you go about marketing yourself as a speaker?
oh, there are a lot of ways of marketing yourself as a speaker. By joining the National Speakers Association, you have the chance to put your name into this sort of registry of speakers, which I think is really helpful. It gives people a flavor of who you are, and people can look at you and get a sense of where's the last place that you spoke and what do you speak about. So I would say that that's one of the big ways of doing it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I For people who are reaching out to various places to find speaking engagements, I get the sense that just because you reach out once doesn't mean you're going to hear back right away. There likely will be some follow up that's necessary to just get in touch with the people you wanted to do business with. How do you go about following up with people?
Oh, I think it's always important to be very authentic and reach out to the people that are most likely to want your services, that are most interested in the kind of topics that you cover and your background, your career. What I find is that since I've been in the pharma world, a lot of my contacts from that world love to hear me speak because they know I get it, right? Like I've lived their life and so forth. So following up with people, per your question, it really comes down to knowing your network. It comes down to being good about keeping people front of mind so that you're always considering, well, who else can I reach out to? Who are the other people that I haven't served? Who are the other people that I can somehow lift and support in some way? I have to say, I'm also a member of something called Speaker Scale, and it's run by Joe Johnston. And I don't get any kind of kickback for mentioning them or Joe, but what I find is that they've really taught me the art of staying in contact with your people in your network and also how to find people who should be part of your network. They're really, really good at that. And then if somebody reaches back to you after you've sent them, like a cold a cold LinkedIn message, like, hey, I'm a keynote speaker and here's what I do, you might get some interest. And then how do you have those interactions back and forth? They're very, very good at teaching speakers how to do it.
Interesting. When it comes to reaching out to people that weren't part of your network already, what at what point do you actually ask them for something? Because I get the sense that there's some that may say wait to ask, and then others would say, well, actually be direct and ask right away. What are your thoughts on that?
I think if you are reaching out to somebody who's new to you and they don't know you, then they don't have any basis of knowing, are you going to charge them $0 or are you going to charge them $25,000 for a dog, right? So they need to have some sort of gauge for that, and you need to have some sort of gauge for whether or not it's a useful conversation to have. If you're willing to go give talks to a select group for free, then it's a lot easier to get in the door and have those conversations. But if you really, this is how you make your money, this is how you, put, food on the table, then it's important to also let them know, yeah, I get paid this much. And, do you pay for speakers? And if they don't pay for speakers, and that really is what you need, then your conversation's kind of over at that moment. And it's not that you don't want to serve them. It's just that they don't have the right way of supporting you back, so.
Yeah, for sure. For the people who are starting out and are listening or watching our conversation, Michael, they may very well have a topic they want to speak on. They may have collateral that they've developed to put themselves out there as a speaker, but they may struggle with figuring out how much to charge for their services. How did you go about figuring out what you would charge?
I have somebody that I trust implicitly who is a great speaker. Her name is Kristen Hadid, and I've just been reading her book and going to some of her programs, and just over time, we developed this great relationship of, she's now my coach, and so I feel like I can ask her anything, like, what should I be charging, and what do you charge? And she's very transparent and very open with that. So I would definitely recommend find yourself a coach, somebody that you trust, somebody who has a speaking style or speaking topics that that resonate with you deeply, and then really get to know them. Just get into their circle, be in their orbit, and then over time say, hey, do you coach new speakers? And I just like to ask you a few questions if you ever have any time. And they might charge you for that, they might not. It just depends on how they do their work. But yeah, ask, and those folks will give you some feedback. I think the other thing to do is go to espeakers.com and check it out. I was kind of stunned by the fact that there are a lot of people who list exactly what they charge, and it gives you a lot of confidence if you see there are literally speakers out there who are charging $25,000, $45,000 per talk. And you look at that and go, oh, well, okay, maybe me charging $2,000 for a talk is not crazy, or even $10,000, right? But I would also say, really talk to that coach, get their sense of where you are in your career, because they'll have a pretty good idea.
Indeed. I've spoken to a number of professional speakers, and they say that when they got started, they gave a lot of speeches. Well, they waived their fee. They never say they gave a free speech. They say they waived the fee. But then I'm curious, if you were to do that, what should you ask the meeting planner for instead of, or I guess in exchange for you waiving your fee?
If you're going to waive your fee, I would absolutely ask for feedback on the talk so that it's something that you can help polish what you're doing. If that's kind of the intent, is to go and practice and be in front of people, then getting that feedback is really critical. It's very important. The other thing that you can do is ask for, is it okay if in my slides I have a QR code and people can follow it to my website, and then I can potentially become a coach for some of the people who attended that talk. The other thing is that if you are an author or you offer some other kind of service, in my case, I have a book. I might say, hey, could I have a book signing at the end of the talk? And then that way, anybody who really enjoyed my speech, I can sit at the back of the room at the end, and then I can sign books and make a little bit of money that way, but also get a little bit more visibility, a little bit more permanence in people's minds that way. So those are some things that I think you can be very clever about, and you can ask for.
Speaking of your book, I probably should have asked this earlier, but what is your book about, and what do you hope people take away from it?
The book is called In Kind, and it's really all about rebranding that phrase. In the English language, we have this phrase of, like John hit Steve and Steve paid him back in kind. And I've always kind of disliked that. I've always wished that in kind meant something like every time somebody feeds you something, you give them back kindness. And so that's how I use the phrase, is that kindness is something that you have as a superpower, that you can improve everybody's lives around you, at home, at work, at the grocery store. It doesn't matter. you can pull out that superpower of kindness at any time, and you can improve the lives of everybody and thereby build the future that you want to live in, right? Because if you're the one driving down the road and somebody cuts you off and you don't honk and you don't, throw them, the middle finger or something like that, they remember when somebody treated them kindly when they needed it, right? We all remember that person who treated us kindly when we weren't being so nice in the moment. So that's what the book is all about. It's all about strategies of how to infuse more kindness into our working world and our personal lives so that we can have a more successful and happier life.
Interesting. Because when I hear the word kind, I'm thinking, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. I, I
Yeah.
sometimes is that something that you even thought about when you wrote the book? And if so, what are some ways to maybe for that not to happen, for people to be mistaken for weak when they're kind?
I think that people who see those kind acts and say, well, that person's just being really weak, I think they have their defenses up. They've been hurt in some way, and they see this person who's doling out kindness even in moments where it takes great courage for them to do it, and maybe even somebody's yelling at them. It takes great strength to not yell back when somebody's yelling at you. That's strength. That's not weakness. And so that's the exciting part about all of this is, like I mentioned, I've been a martial arts instructor, and I've seen punches come at my face. I've seen kicks come at my head. Over time, you just kind of get used to the fact that, okay, it's not about me. It's about the other person. And for me to handle it appropriately in this moment without escalating it, without making it worse, and maybe giving that other person some sort of kindness, man, it takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of deftness to be able to pull it off and to make it work. So I would say the vast majority of people that you've ever met in your life who are kind, they have been through some bad stuff. And so they're probably a lot stronger than the person who's just yelling all the time.
You'd mentioned that you're working with a coach, and I suspect there are a lot of people who are out there, aspiring speakers, who are interested in investing in some sort of speaker program. If they were to do so, what should they reasonably expect from such a program?
Oh, there are so many really good programs that are out there. Heroic Public Speaking is a great one. They have a 2-day course that you can get into that is totally free. At the end of it, of course, they have deeper and more interesting programs even than that one. But yeah, a program that's going to help you as a speaker should help you grow kind of two sides, right? One is how can you be really great on stage? And the other is how do you do all the things to get on stage? So it's the business side, it's the finding leads and having great conversations. So what I found is that having a coach who can talk to me about all of it, but then also being part of like Speaker Scale, or I mean, there are a number of other programs that are out there. But yeah, what I look for in those programs is they're going to teach me how to find the leads. They're going to teach me how to seal the deal without scaring people off, without being salesy, and being truly authentic. And then what I hope for in a really good speaking training program is somebody who's going to say, you use your hands too much. You say a lot. You look to the left all the time and you never look at the right hand side. They give you feedback so that you can work on how to be better on stage. So I think those are the big comprehensive areas of how to be great on stage and then how to get on stage.
Indeed. Another thing I was thinking about when you were talking, Michael, is for people who are aspiring to be speakers, their goal at some point may be to leave their full-time job to be full-time professional speakers. What do they need to have in place to make that happen?
Absolutely have a nest egg. Have some sort of plan for having investors, or be setting aside money so that if you had no business, excuse me, if you had no business for 4 months, that you would be solvent, that you'd be okay. Because it's going to take a while to really get legs up under your business. I think that's the biggest thing, is just feeling financially secure. Now, if you're married to somebody and they make a great income, maybe that's the way that you do it. If you're waiting to get laid off at your job and get that nice, layoff package, and maybe that becomes your nest egg, maybe, then that's great. You can also get a business loan, but I think that's probably the hardest way to go, because if it's not working out, you're still going to have to pay back that loan, right? So I would say, yeah, have a nest egg that's built up. The other big thing is write all the time, speak all the time, because the more you have those ideas kind of in the front of your brain and under your fingers and ready to go, the more you can feel it and the more real it becomes for you. So, speak on the side, keep your job and go, give free talks at the PTA. They're always looking for someone. And if those are going well, it gives you confidence. It makes you think, oh gosh, here's how I could present this topic better. So yeah, have the nest egg, do a lot of practice, make sure that it's really something that you want by doing all of that practice. Those are the big things.
This has been a great conversation, Michael. Thank you so much for being a guest. How can people get in touch with you?
Thank you so much, Neil. Yeah, to find me, if you go to inkindbook.com or ourfutureiskind.com. I'm also on LinkedIn just all the time, and my last name is spelled weird. It's Neece. So yeah, look me up. I always like to talk to new speakers and help people out.
Wonderful. Well, everyone, that marks the end of another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Thanks again and stay safe. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Neil.